Well, we begin with the latest developments from the Russia-Ukraine war. Hours ahead of the NATO summit in Turkiye on Tuesday this week, an all-out war has once again erupted between Russia and Ukraine after Russia launched a major wave of missile and drone attacks targeting Kyiv and several other regions. In response, Ukraine struck an oil terminal in Russia's Baltic Sea port of Vyotsk and a refinery in the Kaluga region. Now, according to Ukrainian officials, the overnight assault by the Russian army is among the most significant attacks in recent days, coming just days after another deadly bombardment of the Ukrainian capital. The toll has been rising, but authorities say that at least 11 people have been killed so far, while more than 60 others have been injured, including children. Emergency crews continue rescue operations amid fears that more people may still be trapped beneath the rubble. Dramatic visuals show the extent of damage in Ukraine. The attacks struck residential neighborhoods, apartment buildings and civilian infrastructure across Kyiv. Images from the city show collapsed buildings, burnt-out vehicles, shattered windows, and firefighters battling large blazes as rescue workers searched through the debris. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia launched 68 missiles and 351 drones during the attack. The country's air defense systems intercepted a large number of the incoming drones and cruise missiles. However, officials acknowledge that several advanced ballistic and hypersonic missiles penetrated Ukrainian defenses, causing extensive destruction in the capital. However, officials also acknowledge that several advanced ballistic and hypersonic missiles did penetrate Ukrainian defenses. Now, the latest strikes also follow another devastating Russian attack on Kyiv just days ago. Remember, the earlier bombardment killed around 30 people, making it one of the deadliest attacks on the Ukrainian capital this year. Thousands of residents sought shelter in underground metro stations as hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles struck multiple parts of the city. Ukrainian officials have warned that Russia appears to be increasing both the scale and the frequency of its long-range attacks. While Russia's defense ministry says the strikes were aimed at military facilities, airfields and energy infrastructure, Ukraine says that civilian neighborhoods were once again bearing the brunt of the attacks, and they accused Moscow of deliberately targeting populated areas. President Volodymyr Zelensky described the latest assault as another act of terror against civilians. In a statement following the attacks, Zelensky urged Ukraine's Western partners to strengthen the country's air defense capabilities. He said, and I quote him, "It is extremely important for the world, first and foremost America and our European partners, to emerge from the NATO summit in Ankara with strong decisions to support our air defense. As long as missiles for Patriots remain in the warehouses of allies, it only encourages Russia to continue. The United States and Europe have enough power to stop this terror." Now, here's why this latest violence is significant. It comes at a particularly significant diplomatic moment. Leaders are beginning to gather in Ankara for the big NATO summit, where Ukraine's security and future military assistance are expected to dominate the discussions. Zelensky has repeatedly called on allies attending the summit to make strong decisions in support of Ukraine's defense, arguing that sustained military assistance remains essential as Russia intensifies its aerial campaign. After the attacks, EU Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen said, and I quote her, "Ukraine urgently needs more air defense. We will discuss it this week in Ankara at the NATO summit. We are working hard to seal the deal on the 21st sanctions package in the next days." Now, military analysts say that Moscow has increasingly relied on combined attacks involving large numbers of drones launched alongside cruise and ballistic missiles. The tactic is designed to overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses, forcing defenders to engage multiple threats simultaneously and increasing the likelihood that some missiles reach their intended targets. Despite the shortage, Ukraine has continued its own long-range drone campaign inside Russia. Remember, in the recent days, Ukrainian drones have struck oil terminals, fuel infrastructure and logistics facilities, including targets linked to Russia's military supply network. These operations intended to disrupt Russia's logistics and reduce its capacity to sustain military operations along the front line. And remember, they have succeeded to some extent. Reports suggest that Russian citizens have been forced to stand in long queues at gas stations, leading to frustration and, in some cases, even fist fights. Meanwhile, fighting on the ground continues across the eastern Ukraine, particularly in the Donetsk region, where Russian forces are pressing offensives around the strategically important towns. Heavy combat is also continuing near the front lines, even as both countries expand the use of drones, precision missiles and long-range strikes far from the battlefield. Amid this, the humanitarian impact of this deadly war continues to grow. Rescue workers remain on site across the affected areas of Kyiv, searching damaged buildings for survivors. Medical teams are treating dozens of injured civilians, while local authorities continue clearing debris and restoring electricity and essential services where possible. With no breakthrough in the peace negotiations and both sides continuing long-range strikes, the conflict is once again an all-out war. With no let-up for now, Ukraine continues to reinforce its air defenses, while Russia presses ahead with large-scale aerial attacks, underscoring that nearly 4.5 years into this full-scale war, there is still no immediate sign of easing. With a focus on the Indo-Pacific region, Prime Minister Narendra Modi kick-started his three-nation tour from Indonesia today. From defence cooperation to critical minerals, this visit is set to add impetus to the comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries. We get you more on this in our next report. Take a look.
As part of his three-nation tour, PM Narendra Modi landed in Jakarta. Signaling the close bilateral ties, he was welcomed at the airport by Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto. Fighter jets from Indonesian Air Force accompanied the PM's plane from the time that PM entered its airspace. He was also received by 4 other ministers, including the Foreign Minister. This marks Prime Minister Modi's first visit since 2018, when both countries elevated their bilateral ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership. It also caps a series of high-level engagements between New Delhi and Jakarta in the last 18 months. For instance, in January 2025, Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto graced India's Republic Day celebrations as the chief guest. On reaching his hotel in Jakarta, PM Modi was warmly greeted by members of the Indian diaspora who chanted slogans like Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Earlier, India's envoy to Indonesia highlighted the possible new areas of cooperation which can be finalized during the PM's visit.
Prime Minister Modi's visit will further intensify those ties and build cooperation in many areas and open up new areas of cooperation, whether it is in manufacturing, whether it is in science and technology, space, nuclear, or even educational exchanges. So it's a multifaceted relationship, and I think in the current geopolitical context where there is so much of turmoil in the world, India and Indonesia working together, I think, gives a strong message to the world.
Why is this so vital? Indonesia is India's second largest trading partner in the ASEAN region. Bilateral trade has increased from $4.3 billion in 2005-2006 to $28.15 billion in 2024-25. While India is the second largest buyer of coal and largest buyer of crude palm oil from Indonesia, Jakarta imports refined petroleum products, vehicles, steel products and plastics from New Delhi. The defense ties are also in focus, with Indonesia's potential procurement of the BrahMos missile weighing in on this. India's Ministry of External Affairs admitted that discussions are at a preparatory stage. Jointly developed with Russia, BrahMos is India's deadliest supersonic cruise missile with a range of 290 kilometers. It can be launched from land, sea and air platforms while maintaining supersonic speed, Throughout its flight, it can carry conventional warheads of up to 200 kilograms. The visit also raises another possibility. Will India seek to patrol the Strait of Malacca, which caters to 1/4 of the global maritime trade? It is worth noting that India showed interest in joining the Malacca Straits Patrol last year. Launched in 2004, this initiative entails joint patrolling of the strait by Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore and Thailand. Navies of these countries engage in intelligence exchange and real-time information sharing, thereby enabling effective response to maritime threats. Now, why does this matter to India? 55% of India's trade passes through South China Sea and the Malacca Strait. Thus, cooperation in this region will enhance maritime awareness, support counter-piracy operations and strengthen ability to respond to natural disasters in the Bay of Bengal. Both countries are also likely to enhance cooperation on critical minerals. Take the case of nickel, for instance. Indonesia is the world's largest producer of nickel. India imports over 80% of its ferronickel, which is critical for steel production from Indonesia. Nickel is also crucial for lithium-ion batteries used in electric vehicles. During his visit, the PM will also visit the Prambanan Temple complex in Yogyakarta and interact with the Indian diaspora. It is amply clear that for India, stronger ties with Indonesia are also about reinforcing a stable, rules-based Indo-Pacific where maritime security remains a key concern. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Moving on now, as NATO leaders meet in Ankara under the shadow of the Russia-Ukraine war and anti-NATO protests outside the summit venue, a Swedish island is preparing for the possibility of a future NATO war with Russia. Our next report tells you all the details. Take a look.
Security has been tightened across Ankara as leaders from NATO's 32 member states, along with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and President Trump, gather for the summit amid continued pressure from Washington on European allies to increase defense spending. Turkish authorities detained more than 100 protesters after an anti-NATO march organized by the Communist Party of Turkiye. Demonstrators demanded Turkiye's withdrawal from NATO, claiming the alliance diverts essential public funds away from essential social services into the arms industry. NATO leaders are reportedly expected to reaffirm an ironclad commitment to collective defense under Article 5. That mandates an armed attack against one member state is considered an attack against all members.
Here in Ankara, I expect nations to present clear, concrete and credible plans to reach that 5% goal. And the evidence we see so far is impressive. Just 1 year into a 10-year project, we see that European allies and Canada are already investing around 4% of their GDP in defense and security.
One place that reflects NATO's changing priorities is Sweden's largest island, Gotland, fully surrounded by the Baltic Sea. Home to nearly 61,000 people, the island lies just 275 kilometers from Russia's heavily militarized Kaliningrad exclave and around 90 kilometers from the Swedish mainland. Positioned at the heart of what is often described as NATO's Baltic stronghold, Gotland occupies one of the alliance's most strategically significant locations. During the Cold War, Gotland hosted 4 regiments and could mobilize around 25,000 troops. But Sweden shut its last permanent regiment in 2005, leaving only a small home guard presence. And now Stockholm is reviving regiments amid growing concerns over Russian military activity. Since the Russia-Ukraine war and Sweden's entry into NATO, the military build-up has reportedly accelerated at an unprecedented pace, with hundreds of conscripts now serving 15 months of compulsory military service on the island. Sweden's defense planners believe control of Gotland would allow whoever holds it to influence both air and naval operations across the Baltic Sea and secure or even threaten the reinforcement routes to the Baltic states. A Russian capture of the island would provide Moscow with a powerful military foothold in the Baltic, complicating NATO's ability to reinforce its eastern members like Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. Sweden's 2025-2030 defense strategy identifies a surprise Russian attack on Gotland by air or sea as one of its highest priority military scenarios. The island has now become a regular venue for NATO military exercises since Sweden joined the alliance, while Stockholm expands conscription and increases defense spending. What was once known mainly as a peaceful holiday destination has become one of NATO's most important strategic outposts, highlighting how the Russia-Ukraine war is reshaping military planning far beyond the battlefield. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.